Hi there, welcome to That Board Game Show. My name is James Wood, and today I'm going to show you Wild Gardens, a beautiful game about foraging food and finding friends. Designed by Isaac Vega, with beautiful art by Alyssa Menold, and published by Rose Gauntlet Entertainment. In Wild Gardens, our objective is to explore this beautiful part of the countryside, foraging food, making meals, and serving those meals to guests. How we're going to be doing that is we're going to be moving our characters, which are represented by these lovely, chunky, screen-printed wooden people. There is our yellow player, and there is our blue player for today. I'm going to be showing you a two-player game today, but the game does also play exceptionally well solo. In fact, it has a wonderful solo scenario book, which is chock full of, I'll tell you now, 7 different scenarios that you can play. I'm not going to show you those today because they are full of spoilers. All kinds of story elements in there that I don't want to ruin for you. So just letting you know that there is this wonderful solo scenario book to enjoy the game by yourself. But today I want to show you the two-player game because I think that represents the overall gameplay a little better, a little easier, and it doesn't destroy any of the nice little story elements that you can discover as you play the solo mode. So with that said, let's put our people back. And I think the best way to explain the game is to simply play out a few turns and you'll see exactly how it works as I play it. When you set up the game, the start player is given this little basket over here, and they place their person next to the space with the statue. Now, there are 2 sides to this board. We have this side, which is the lovely autumnal side, which I thought was thematically appropriate considering it is just entering autumn here in South Africa. So I figured the beautiful autumnal colors would really fit the mood of what's happening outside the studio at the moment. But there is also a second side of the board, which is the summer side, which looks like this, and that side just offers a slightly different distribution of the zones and the path and so on. The main difference being that this autumnal board has these arrows over here where you can exit the board from one side and enter it from another. And all of that will make a lot more sense once I start playing. So once the first player has placed their person next to the statue figure, every other player in clockwise order going around the table places their person adjacent to the start player. So you could start here, 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 or here. Then the next player would have one of those 3 spaces to choose from, and the game can play up to 4. And it is played over 2 consecutive trips of 3 days each, which is on this board over here. We have our day 1, day 2, and day 3 segments. And each location that you journey through is represented by one of these cards. So right now we are starting in Oaxaca, Mexico, which says at the beginning of each day in player order, study or cook. You do not need to be in a picnic zone. What that means is one of your main actions that you'll be doing throughout the game is this action here, to cook or to study. And in order to cook, you typically have to be standing in a location with a picnic table. This card allows you to break that rule. Now, starting out the game, we don't have any ingredients gathered just yet, so we won't be able to cook anything. So each player will do the study action as a free bonus action. And you'll see that there is an entire deck here of additional location cards. And each of these has a different location on the other side. And this back side represents end of day bonuses, which you will see at the end of the day. So now let's study with each of our characters. I'm going to call this character here Zoe and this one over here Zach, just so that it's easier to differentiate them and instead of just calling it blue player and yellow player for the entire game. So Zoe is going to study. Now, what is study? This action here with the book symbol is to study. You'll see shortly how you typically take actions, but for right now, we're just going to take this as a free action. And to study is to look at this board over here, which is the library, and you can check out a book that matches the symbol of one of the foraging zones you are adjacent to. So each of these locations on the board here is called a foraging zone, meaning that in this zone, in this area, you can forage nuts. And each of these is a token, so each time you play, it's going to be randomized. So you'll always get a slightly different distribution of where all of the ingredients are. So right now, for Zoe to study the nuts or the bark, she can check out this nut book over here or this bark book over here. Bing! Whoop, and everything moved. Okay, so she is going to study either bark or nuts. Now, when she checks out a book, she takes it, let's say she takes this one over here, and she places it into her little book slot over there. And you'll see that each player can have a max of 2 books checked out at any given time. Then you take the skill token that is adjacent to the book you've just checked out, and you place it in one of these spaces on any of the empty spaces, whoopsie, on your player board. What this symbol allows her to do is the forage action. So it gives you a bonus forage wherever you put it. So I'm going to place that over there, so that in the future, when she does the cook or serve action, she can forage as well. So that's a nice little bonus for her. We'll move her back to her place on the table. And now Zach will study as well. But first, you'll see that we have just emptied out a skill token. So now we come to our skill token bag here, which comes with the game. Beautiful screen printed little drawstring bag. And we'll plop that over there. That is a new skill that can now be learned. Zach can now study something that is either aquatic plants, fungus, or berries. So that allows him to study, to check out this book, or this book. I think Zach is going to check out this aquatic book over here. And he's going to take this skill token. This skill allows him to increase his movement by +or -1. And again, you'll see how that works very shortly. So let's put that one over here. He's going to go into his foraging action and make his foraging action a little better. We will replenish that space. And now you see that once these books are checked out, now if you want to study this skill over here, which will give you a leaf every time you do the corresponding action, you can only study that if you are next to fungus. So your options are somewhat limited, and that's why each player is limited to having 2 books checked out at any time. Now, as a free action, later on, you have these free skills over here, one of which is to return a book by paying a matching ingredient. So, at a later point in the game, if he has a surplus aquatic plant, he can discard that at any time during his turn and return this book back to the library. So that is how the study action works. And I don't know where those were. And everything just went topsy-turvy, so I hope I put the books back in the right place. But if I didn't, now you know why. If they have magically changed position, it's because they all fell off the board as I was moving it. Right, so that is the beginning of the day step, and we'll do that at the beginning of each day for day 1, day 2, day 3. Once we have completed 3 days, we will proceed to a new trip. We will wipe all of these tokens, shuffle them up and redistribute them, and we will draw a new location card. So we will have another trip at a new location, and then do 3 days there, and then that will be the end of the game. So now, what you're actually going to primarily be doing on your turn is gathering the ingredients you need to cook these gorgeous looking recipes over here. And these are all based in the wild ingredients that you are able to forage from the wild gardens. And in this case, the wild gardens are located in Oaxaca, Mexico. Zoe is going to go first. And where is she going to go? This French sorrel sauce looks quite delicious. That'll be a nice little garnish to have on the side of whatever else she's going to make later. So that means that she needs 3 leaves. Now, the reason she's eyeballing the French sorrel salad is because she wants to serve one of these guests a bit later. And this guest, Brooklyn over here, wants a dinner. And you'll see each recipe has a different symbol up in the corner. So this French sorrel salad over here is a dinner. This vegan chicken tacos is a salad, which is a rather appropriate salad to be preparing in Oaxaca. This watermint sorbet is a dessert. This dandelion and burdock is a drink. And lastly, we have this wild ginger syrup with a little croissant in the corner, and that is a breakfast. And then you'll see that each guest wants a different type of meal. So Brooklyn over here, for instance, would like to eat a dinner. So Zoe is going to work towards cooking up this French sorrel salad to serve it to Brooklyn. To do that, she needs to get some leaves. Now, the closest leaves are over there, because when you move, you have to follow the arrows on the board. And to get there, she needs to move 1, 2, 3, or 4 spaces. She will go 3 spaces. So she will take her 3 cylinder, and these cylinders are your action markers. You'll see you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 actions that you can do in the first day. Using her 3, she is going to move 1, 2, 3 spaces. She is then going to forage. That is what these 2 hands here mean. So she can forage twice. She can forage 2 different ingredients or 2 of the same. And the ingredients that she can forage are the ones that are connected to her location. So right now she can forage these nuts, leaves, or this aquatic plant. And every location on the board is connected to 3 different foraging zones. Naturally, she is going to forage 2 leaves, and I will probably keep calling them lettuce throughout the entire game, because they kind of look like lettuce to me, and that's just what my brain defaults to. And she is done. That is it. Her entire action is over. It is now Zach's turn. So Zach is also going to forage, and he is going to use his 3 as well. Now, when he goes foraging, he can move plus or minus 1. So that's where these skill tokens can come in incredibly handy. So later on, as you see, you're using up your cylinders. So your ability to move is going to get more and more restricted as the game progresses. So being able to adjust his movement will be very useful. And you see here we have another one of these. So he could potentially, if he chose to study again, get 2 of those and now increase his movement by plus or minus 2. Or he could put it over there and give himself more flexibility in that action. So you have a lot of variability in the way you can build out your skills and your actions here. For right now, he's just interested in getting something served up. So he's going to go 1, 2, 3 over here. And he is going to forage 2 of these roots. So he's going to dig out 2 roots over here, because he is eyeballing this wild ginger syrup. That looks delicious. And he wants some delicious syrup to pour over his croissant, or his bagels, or his waffles, or whatever it is he's having for breakfast. Then it is Zoe's turn. Now, Zoe needs 1 more leaf. And she's in a bit of a pickle. That is a shame, because you'll see she has the forage action added to her cook or serve action. So she would be able to forage the leaf she needs and then cook the recipe for 1 action. But right now she cannot get to a picnic table that is adjacent to a leaf, because you'll see our leaves are only here, here, and over here. Now this one is adjacent to a picnic table, but you can never be in the same space as another player. And if you would move into the same space as another player, you simply leapfrog over them and ignore the space they're in for your movement. So if she were to move 3 spaces, she would move 1, 2, 3. She'd ignore that space. So she's not going to be able to use the bonus of this, unfortunately. So then what she's going to do is she's going to simply move one space and forage again. She's just going to move over to there. So now she's still adjacent to leaves. She's going to forage one leaf. She now has the 3 leaves she needs for this French sorrel sauce. And she can forage another leaf or a flower. Now, nothing out here currently needs flowers. And you can also have a bit of a hint as to what's coming. Based on the back of the recipe deck, you'll see each of these cards on the back of it shows the ingredient that is the primary ingredient used in the dish that you are going to make with it. So in the case of this French sorrel sauce, if we flip it over, you'll see on its back it is common sorrel. That is the dominant ingredient. And you'll see it's a leaf, and this only needs leaves. Now that's not always going to be the case. For instance, this cattail pollen pasta requires a range of ingredients, but if we flip it over, you'll see that cattail, which is an aquatic plant, is the primary ingredient. So you can have a hint as to what's coming, because as soon as somebody cooks one of these dishes, we reveal a new one from the deck. So we have a good sense that whatever is on the other side of this card has something to do with nuts. So you're going to definitely need nuts for that recipe. That also needs lettuce. And there I go again, calling it lettuce. Leaves, because it's a placeholder for all leaves, not just lettuce. Although vegan chicken tacos probably do use lettuce after all. Or maybe a rocket. It's probably a rocket. Okay, so she's just going to forage another leaf. So that she's got a leaf in the bank for possibly cooking that dish later. She is done. Play proceeds to Zach. And what is Zachy going to do? Zachy can probably cook right away. He needs to go 1, 2, 3 to get to a picnic table. Or 1, 2, 3, 4. So he's going to use his 4 to move down to this picnic table. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now here's at a picnic table. He can discard his 2 roots that he has gathered. Probably wild ginger, considering what he's about to make, because he just cooked this lovely wild ginger syrup. That immediately scores him 2 points. Boom! And I don't know if I mentioned this in the intro, but at the end of the game, the player with the most points wins. In a shocking turn of events for a board game. This wild ginger syrup now comes into his cooked recipes area on his player board. And he can now use that dish later to serve to one of the guests. Now, why did I cook a breakfast when none of the guests want breakfast? These guests over here, Chonk, the little ones, and Yu and Gio, I'll show you Chonk for ease because he's only got 1. That symbol there is a wild. Chonk will eat whatever you throw his way. The little ones are very hungry and they'll eat 2 of whatever you throw their way. And then Yu and Chio, they're vaguely health conscious, so they want a salad and they'll be happy with whatever else you sprinkle on the side. So, having this wild ginger syrup was a nice easy recipe to cook up nice and quick in order to serve to one of these wild characters. And you will notice that each of the characters also has a little number in the corner here. Those numbers are purely for the solo scenarios. So as you're playing the solo game, you'll be told that you must find Chonk in the guest deck and serve him. And then once you serve him, then you will go to story entry number 143 and read whatever it tells you. And then that's how the story element progresses. So it's got like a little bit of a choose your own adventure paragraph type thing going on, because sometimes you'll have multiple guests out that you need to serve, and which ones you serve will determine which story entries you interact with. His turn is done. He has cooked a recipe. We'll flip over the hickory nuts. You'll see here, we are flipping the hickory nuts, and it is a hickory nut milk. So you always have a pretty good sense of what's coming, so we're pretty confident that the next thing is going to involve sea lettuce. And now it is Zoe's turn. Zoe has everything she needs for this French sorrel salad, so she just needs to get to a picnic table and cook it. So now you'll see that she is at this location, and the 2 over here exits the board over there and returns into the board over here. So that means she has to come back in over there. So she will use her 2. Actually, she will use her 4 instead, so that she can come in here. She's going to come in 1, 2, 3, 4. Because you see, once you come into this space here has 2 arrows. You can go that way or that way. And this one allows you to go that way or that way. So she has some options. And because she has this bonus forage action, she wants to be over here to forage a berry. Because again, several of the recipes out there require berries. So she is first going to forage a berry. Then she is going to cook, because that is the main action she is doing here. She's going to discard 3 leaves, which are definitely French sorrel, as we have learned. She is going to cook this French sorrel, or prepare this French sorrel sauce. I don't know if there's any cooking involved. That is going to score her 3 points. So she's going to move her little pollinator token up to 3. And you will see on the board here we have these pollinator tokens and these jar tokens. I will explain how the jar tokens work a little bit later, as it will be easier to explain in a demonstration, and I can't demonstrate it very well right now. So she is done there. We will flip that ingredient over. It is now Zach's turn, and play is going to proceed like this until all players have used up all of their tokens. So I think I'm just going to burn through a couple turns so that we can get to the end of the day and I can show you how the end of day steps work. Okay, so he wants to serve this up. He is going to get himself to another picnic table. He's going to go 1, 2. He's going to serve this wild ginger syrup. When you have served an ingredient, you simply discard it because you've already scored the points for it. But I like to keep them because I like to have a little record of all the things I've cooked up. So let's discard his used ingredients up to there. So he is serving that wild ginger syrup to Chonky over here. And you'll see that Chonk says at game end. So he doesn't score any points immediately. The little asterisk next to the star there means he is in end of game scoring condition, which says you may discard 6 ingredients of your choice in your supply to gain 5 points, or discard 10 ingredients to gain 11 points. So now he will come over into my play area, and you just store your served guests on the side of your play area. What he is telling me that I want to do is I want to try and stockpile my resources as much as possible. So he probably wants to bolster his forage action as much as he can. He wants to get as many bonus skills from now on that allow him to forage as much as possible, and then spend his time cooking more simple recipes that don't require as many ingredients, so that he can have a whole bunch of leftover ingredients at the end of the game to serve up to Chonk. Maybe Chonk has a family of little raccoon fellows that he wants to share his plunder with. Okie dokie. Or maybe he just steals it and I get points as a compensation. Let's see. We will replace that. And now that brings me to another point. There are 3 types of guests. There are end of game scoring guests. There are guests like Brooklyn over here, who says discard 2 X, do whatever her bonus is there. And then we have other guests like Elena over here, who says when served. So those are the 3 types. When served triggers the second you serve them. End of game scoring, scores at the end of the game. And then discard 2 X means they will stay in your play area until you discard them to do whatever the bonus is. In this case, it is to serve 1 guest card without paying its cost. And you do not need to be in a picnic zone to do so. So she's pretty cool. Maybe she's got lots of friends and she shares whatever you give her with them. Okie dokie. what is Zoe going to do? Zoe is going to serve. They seem to be just copying each other at this point. But she is going to go 2 spaces. She's going to go 1, 2 to get to a picnic table. She is going to discard her French sorrel sauce. And she is going to serve it to Brooklyn. So we have just seen how Brooklyn works. She doesn't score any points, but you can discard her at any time to serve another guest that will score you some points. And you will see that Brooklyn has a jar token, and each player has a jar token on their player board. And that has to do with how your jar token will score later in the game, and we will get there very soon. That's coming momentarily. Draw out a new guest. Zach is going to do what we said earlier. He's going to try and bolster ways to forage, forage, forage. Now you'll see on this space over here, he has to move this way, and then this one has a 1 and a 2, so that exits the board there, and you can come in either at the top or the bottom here. So he wants to get next to a fungus, so he's going to have to use his wild token over here, because this allows him to move 1 to 4 spaces. He is going to go 1, 2 spaces over to there. He is now next to a fungus. He's going to do the study action. He is going to check out the fungus book. He wants to learn all about mushrooms, and as we all know, that is a very good idea to do, because if you go picking and eating mushrooms that you do not know about, all kinds of bad things can happen to you. So he's going to make sure that he studies up on his fungus very thoroughly before he goes picking any. Fortunately, all he's played with so far is some wild ginger, and that is pretty safe. So, by checking out the fungus, he gets this leaf token, which he can now add to his board. He is going to add that to his forage action, I think. And now, every time he forages in the future, in addition to whatever he forages from his adjacent zones, he will simply get 1 leaf from the supply. Okay, so back to Zoe's final turn of day 1. And I just want to demonstrate one of the final actions that you have not yet seen. You've seen foraging, you've seen cooking, you've seen serving, you've seen studying. Zoe is now going to reserve a recipe. Whenever you do an action, you always have to move at least 1 space. She's just going to move 1 space over here, keep it simple. Now she is going to reserve a recipe, because we can see here that she has a berry and a leaf. So that is part of the way towards this vegan chicken tacos over there. So she's going to reserve that recipe, thereby putting it into her reserved cards area. So now nobody else can cook it, because when they're out here, they're common property. They're available for anyone to prepare at any time. Now, right now, that's not a huge deal because Zach doesn't have a huge amount of resources, and she could probably get everything she needs to prepare this before he can. But it can sometimes help if you can see that other players at the table have the ingredients that are needed for a particular recipe, and it's a recipe you've been building towards for a couple turns. You can reserve that recipe and then prepare it at your leisure. Now, that can also be quite a good idea whether or not other people have the ingredients that they need to cook the thing you want, to simply just reserve a recipe and then start working towards that, rather than gathering ingredients for something that might disappear before you have a chance to prepare it. Now, the bonus of reserving a recipe is that you score 2 points as soon as you do the reserve action. So she will get 1, 2, thereby essentially making these vegan chicken tacos worth 6 points instead of 4. Okay, so that is her final action of the day. Let's see what Zach wants to do. Zach can't study again. Oops, I forgot to replenish the skill tokens over there, because you can see he's got 2 books checked out already, and that means that he cannot check out another book without returning one of these, and currently he does not have a fungus or an aquatic plant to return the book to the library. We did not replenish this over here. Some wildflower salad. So he should probably just go foraging. Let's do that. He's going to move 1 space. Now, because he's got his bonus, he could move 2 spaces. Even though this says plus or minus 1, I don't believe you can ever move 0 spaces. You always have to move at least 1. So he will move 1 space or 2, 1 or 2 spaces. Does he want to get flowers and bark and nuts? Or, yeah, flowers are probably not a bad idea. Yeah, because by moving 1 more space, he's not actually getting access to anything he doesn't have access to here. And he is going to get a leaf by default. Boink! Somehow he always manages to pluck leaves from the bushes as he passes them. Because he's got a leaf already, he's going to start working toward this wildflower salad that just popped up. He's going to get 2 flowers. And that is the end of the day. So now, at the end of day 1, starting with the first player, each player resets all of their tokens. And you take one of your tokens and place it on this day 1 space over here. If you place your 1 over here, so if she places her 1 on that space, you will get 2 bark. If you place a 2, you will get the main ingredient. That symbol there means whatever is the main ingredient on top of the deck. So in this case, you would get an aquatic plant and 1 point. If you place your 4, you get 2 points. And if you place your 3, you can pay a leaf and a flower to move your jar token a number of times equal to the number of jar symbols you have in your play area. And that is how you score on the jar track. The jars are spaced out at much wider intervals than 1 point. So if Zach were to place his 3 over here, let's just say he's going to do that. You do technically do this in player order, but I'm jumping ahead to demonstrate. He is going to pay a leaf and a flower back into the general supply. Not really working towards his wildflower salad anymore. I probably wouldn't do this in an actual game, because right now, by moving his jar, he's only going to move to that first space, which is going from 0 to 2. If he had guests with jar symbols, like Zoe over here, she's got Brooklyn with this jar symbol, which would mean if Zoe spent a leaf and a flower, she could move her jar token twice. So she would go from 0 to 3. If she had 3 jar tokens, she'd be able to jump all the way up to 5, and so on. So collecting jars is quite a big way to score a lot of points in this game. Zoe is going to give up her 2 to get an aquatic plant and a point. So she's going to get 1 point over there, and 1 aquatic plant from the supply. So now she is a bit more prepared going into day 2. Everyone's tokens reset. Slide that back up there. The first player marker moves, so now Zach will be the first player for this day, and play will continue. You'll continue using your tokens to do actions, to travel, forage ingredients, cook recipes, serve those recipes to guests. This end of day bonus will remain for these 3 days, and you'll see as you go, your actions are going to be limited as the game progresses. So let's say at the end of day 2, he's gathered another leaf and flower and he wants to do this. He would have to give up his 1 through 4, his wild token, to be able to do the 3. Otherwise, you can only do that once per trip. And then let's say he decided to just go for the 2 bonus points. And so you'll see that your tokens diminish and you're doing less and less actions with each subsequent day. Then, once 3 days have been played out, everyone gets their tokens back. We will reveal a new location. In this case, it would be North Texas Parks. And you'd play out 3 more days and then tally up your points and see who did the best. And there you have it. I'm not going to play out all of those 6 days. I have played out 1 day to show you how everything works. Fun little fact, I actually had the privilege of playtesting this game quite extensively back when it was in development. So that was a lot of fun. It was really a delight to work with the Rose Gauntlet team on bringing this game to life. And it started out quite dramatically different to what it is now. The core concept was obviously the same, you know, the moving around the track and gathering ingredients, cooking those ingredients, that was all right there from the beginning. But how it developed and how it evolved was really fascinating. So if you are at all interested in the process of game design and what goes into it, I would highly recommend giving it a shot. If you see an opportunity to play test a game, go for it, sign up. Now, it can be a bit of a commitment, but I believe it is well worth it to be involved and be able to have feedback and input into the development of a game and how it evolves. And one of the things that evolved the most is this stunning art. Now, obviously, when we started playtesting, it was basically spreadsheets, the board game, because everything was just figuring it out. But the art they had pretty early on, they had like samples of the art. And from day one, it's been incredible. Alyssa Menold, I hope I'm saying your name right. You are amazing if you're watching this. And yeah, just thank you to all the people who sweat over these games to bring them to life and make them a delight and a pleasure and bring joy to our table. And with that, I shall say thank you ever so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the show. And remember to spread the joy of tabletop gaming.